I love making pie dough in the food processor. It's so easy. I usually make my pie dough in advance, so I get the dough, it's ready, it's in my refrigerator or even the freezer. It's ready to go. I can just take it out and work with it when I'm ready to bake the pie. The food processor knives do such an effective job of mixing in the cold butter into the flour. You don't over process it. If you're just kneading the dough with your hands are warm. So if you knead it too long, it'll melt the butter and then you won't get the flaky, tender pie crust that you want. So the food processor makes sure that the butter stays really cold. It does it really quickly. What could be better than that? Put the flour into the bowl of the food processor, add the salt, and if you're making a sweet pie, you can add a little bit of sugar here too. Pulse it to combine, and then put in the frozen butter. So I cut up the butter and I put it in the freezer until it gets nice and cold. Freezing the butter will help to keep it extra cold so that it doesn't become too small when you're processing it and that it doesn't melt too quickly. So put the butter into the flour, pulse it together until the butter is about the size of peas and it's interspersed with the flour. Then add the ice cold water. The water for pie dough should be ice cold, so I put it in the freezer before I start making the pie. This opening comes in really handy for jobs like this because I'm going to add the water right in there. Add the water a few tablespoons at a time and pulse it again just until it comes together. And check the consistency. You don't want to add too much water. You can open it up and squeeze it with your fingers to see if it's holding its shape and that it's staying together, not falling apart. See, it's holding its shape. That means there's enough water in here, even though the rest of it definitely doesn't look like it's coming together. But it will when you put it on the counter. Then just put all of this onto your counter and bring it all together with your hands. I like to err on the side of using the food processor a little bit less. That way I don't add too much water, and just bring it together with my hands really quickly. Just like this, see? If you scrunch it with your hands, it comes together very easily. This way I'm not adding too much water because that means the dough is gonna be more tender. You don't want to over mix it so the butter doesn't melt. And then I usually do 2 crusts at the same time. So I divide it in half and shape each of them into the shape of a disc. If it's not coming together and it's too dry and falling apart, you can always add a bit more water. If I'm going to use the pie crust within a few days, I store it in my refrigerator. And you see how there's still lots of butter pieces in here? It really helps that that butter was frozen. For longer storage, wrap it up in parchment paper or aluminum foil, then place it in a freezer Ziploc bag or a reusable storage bag. You want multiple layers to protect the pie crust and keep it fresh as long as possible. Store it in the freezer for up to 3 months. Homemade pie dough is amazing. It bakes up into beautiful, flaky layers that are tender, golden brown, and so tasty. This recipe is also so versatile. You can use this pie dough for both sweet and savory recipes. Our family favorites are apple pie or pumpkin pie, and also potato bacon pie. I also use it for homemade Pop-Tarts or galettes, which is like a free-form pie. You're gonna love experimenting with this recipe to make your own unique and delicious creations.